Welcome to Table for 92, element number 25, manganese. It's number 25 because it has exactly 25 protons within its nucleus. We're cooking up some delicious mussels fra diavolo today, as mussels are extremely high in manganese. So yeah, manganese is found naturally in food and is an essential trace element. It has a ton of functions in the human body. According to the NIH, manganese is involved in amino acid, cholesterol, glucose, carbohydrate metabolism, plus a bunch of other stuff. The body has between 10 and 20 milligrams of manganese at any point, with about a third of that being concentrated in bone. Every human needs minerals, but our bodies do not manufacture minerals. So we must get them from our diet. The minerals come from rocks, soil, and water, which are absorbed by plants and then eaten by animals, which are in turn eaten by humans. Thankfully, manganese is found in a ton of foods and spices, like whole grains, clams, oysters, mussels, nuts, soybeans, rice, leafy vegetables, coffee, tea. And for the spices, you get it in black pepper, fennel seed, coriander, marjoram, and oregano. They all have decent amounts of manganese. Mussels have some of the highest concentration of manganese, though. Just 3 ounces have the equivalent of 250% of the daily value needed, while hazelnuts and pecans are really high up on the list too. Now, my fishmonger was nice enough to clean these mussels of any beards and sand. That's something, you got to do at home if you're getting fresh mussels. And, remember, with mussels, you never eat a mussel that is already open before it's cooked, and never pry open and eat a closed cooked mussel. There's a lot of rules, but it's totally worth it. So let's make some mussels fra diavolo. I'm gonna heat oil and garlic until golden. Add some Calabrian hot pepper paste, ripe tomato, and fresh parsley, crushed red pepper, and cook for 1 minute. Then add a can of plump tomatoes that are drained and rinsed, and cook for 15 to 20 minutes. It's gonna break down and get a really nice dark red color to it. Turns out manganese has been used for many years before it was actually discovered by the Swedish chemist Carl Wilhelm Scheele while working with the mineral pyrolusite. Amazingly, his associate Johann Gottlieb Gahn also isolated manganese that same year, although it is rarely used in a pure form. Excess manganese in the diet will just be excreted, but breathing in manganese dust can really screw with the central nervous system. See, manganese is essential in steel making, so the workers involved with mining, rock crushing, and smelting do have to worry about manganese toxicity. Now, manganese is a silvery white, hard, and brittle metal found in group 7 of the periodic table. It's widely distributed in the Earth's crust and is roughly similar to iron in its physical and chemical properties, but is harder and more brittle. Manganese oxides in different forms have fooled people quite a few times in history. Occurring in so many different oxides, manganese can be really confusing like that. So in glass making, manganese was used to be a cleanser when added in small amounts, but it also gives glass a beautiful purple color when added in higher amounts. Archaeological evidence shows this process in ancient Egypt thousands of years ago. But we think ancient glass makers actually thought manganese was a kind of iron because they look so similar. That's where the name comes from. Manganese, like magnetic. Magnus is Latin for magnet. We have writings from Italy in the 1500s talking about this particular oxide of manganese and what it did during glass making. And they're talking about it as if it were magnetite. But the effects on glass that are happening would have only come from manganese. So yeah, manganese has been screwing with us for thousands of years, it seems. On top of that, there are these things called pseudofossils that are things that straight up look like fossils but are not biological in nature. Manganese oxide, or manganese dendrites, the way it grows in this branching pattern, it totally looks like a plant fossil. And they're really common crystals. They'll form when small cracks exist in rocks, and that is usually sedimentary rocks because they always come out in layers, which are the only kind of rocks you will find fossils in. I used to be a tour guide for a long time at an outdoor museum in Colorado, and we had manganese dendrites all over the place. And early on working there, I wasn't really comfortable, and people would point out and ask me about these, and I was like, yeah, those are totally fossils. Way to go, you found them. But yeah, I think I did that for like a couple of years before I finally read about them. So if you were on my tour back then, my bad, I apologize. Those were not fossils. Another time manganese confused us was back when the Taung baby was discovered, a super famous early human fossil from the Australopithecus afarensis species that lived in South Africa about 2.3 million years ago. The guy who found it, Raymond Dart, kind of made a lot of claims about these fossils that were a little out there, one of which was that other fossil fossil bones found around the town baby had evidence of burning, since they were blackened. So Dart claimed the bones showed evidence of the earliest known use of controlled fire. If that had been true, it would have been a huge discovery. I mean, it's, one of the biggest questions in human prehistory. But yeah, you probably guessed it. It was not fire, it was one of the manganese oxides that had blackened those fossil bones. Manganese sulfates, salts, are used to promote plant growth, especially for citrus crops. Manganese sulfates are also used in the manufacturing of paints and varnish dryers. And the compound potassium permanganate has many uses, especially as a disinfectant, water purifier, and antiseptic. Another great example of the combining of elements for different uses, manganese ores are produced mostly in Australia, South Africa, China, Gabon, and Brazil. Amazingly, there are large deposits of manganese on the bottom of the ocean floor, and it is estimated to be much more than is found in land reserves. Now I'm going to add white wine, about a cup, and cook for just a few minutes. Bring it to a simmer, add the mussels, mix them together, put the cover on, and you want to let them steam for 5 to 10 minutes. Stir it every so often to get all those flavors together. Mussels, absolutely delicious. But the best part of this is dipping the bread in this absolutely wonderful broth. Yeah, it's got a good spice to it. Easy like manganese. Thanks for watching. See you next time. So please like and subscribe. It's how I validate my existence, getting more subscribers.